No, but the thing about it is what attracted me to her was her optimism. And I said, if I could connect with someone like that, who's doing something in foster care, who should be dead, who should not be around or alive, then maybe it's possible that together we could do something great. And through her, she introduced me to Dr. Patricia, and this is why I'm here. Through someone I met on the internet because I was looking to partner with people greater than me. It's not amazing? Is that by accident? No, it was supposed to happen. Everybody in this room is here for a greater purpose, for a greater reason. You have been called to do this work. And I know that the people who you think support you, who tell you that you're crazy for doing this, I know that you guys have been there, and they tell you that why are you working with those kids, or why are you doing this? You should quit and do something else. Anybody ever think about quitting? No? Nobody in this room has ever thought about quitting. Thank you very much. What is your name? Yes. Ma'am, what is your name? Right there. Jessica? Okay, Jessica. Now, let me kind of give you an example of maybe how one day went with Jessica that wasn't going so good. Jessica's under a lot of pressure. She's in child welfare, and Jessica decides that she is out of this game. She's gone. It's over. She's going to Walmart. You know what? She's out of this profession. So Jessica writes her resignation letter, blah, 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 I'm out of here, and she's going to present it to her boss, and she swears that she's going to do it, and she's got all the confidence and all the nerve, and she's just about ready to do it until she remembers, I got a mortgage. So she stays in it because she's got a mortgage. But then Jessica remembers why she got into this arena. Jessica got into it because she cares about kids. And Jessica got into this because she was called and she has a higher sense of purpose and a higher sense of service. So though despite she's under a lot of pressure and the turmoils of life, and Murphy shows up, Jessica stays engaged in the game. And she showed up. Sometimes it's just about showing up. Sometimes it's just about doing the things in life that we need to do, because sometimes we got to be very careful who we listen to. So it's very important, because sometimes we can get all twisted up. So what I want you to do, I need everybody to stand up. Everybody stand up. And what I need you to do, okay? So, now, if you have seen this before, please don't spoil it for anybody else, but I just need to do an exercise, okay? So everybody put their arms out like this, straight like this, don't say anything. Now, what I want you to do is listen to me very carefully. Are you listening? Very, very good. So, bring your left arm out, straight. Take your right arm, put it over, and interlock your fingers, and just hold it straight. No, get your hands straight, so get your elbows straight. There it is. Now, what you're going to do is on the count of 3, without breaking your fingers, take a deep breath, 1, 2, 3, and turn your hands like this without breaking your grip. Oh my God, some of you, no, you can't break your grip. Wait a minute, how was that possible? Whoa, everybody sit down. I know some of you are wondering, like, wait a minute, some of you are like, what the heck, what? I understand. And you guys will be trying to figure it out for the next 20 years. It's okay. The moral of the story is sometimes if you follow the wrong leadership or you listen to the wrong things, even though you're trying to do the right thing, you find yourself twisted. And even though you're trying to go like this, you're still twisted like this, and that's how child welfare is. And this lady's hands are still like that. Like, wait a minute. What if... I understand. But sometimes people say, well, Mark, you know what? Is perception everything? It is everything, because perception is all that we have in what it is we do. So let me ask you a question. When you first saw me coming in, or met me yesterday, or met me today, what was your perception of me once you found out that I was one of the speakers? What was your perception before you knew my story? What was it? What was the perception? Successful? Physically, mentally, sexually abused, 9th grade high school dropout. Clinically depressed at 14, addicted to drugs at 15. Gang member at 16, incarcerated at 16 and a half, not once, but twice. Other perceptions? Not all at once. Yes. Brave enough to wear a pink tie. That is true. I do my own thing when I want to do it, and my wife is responsible. So, she really is. I don't dress myself. She's like, wear the pink tie. Okay, whatever. I've learned to be like, okay, that's all I do. I understand. Other perceptions? One more. Yes. Okay, successful African American. Okay, but it wasn't always that way. So the thing about it is, what we see now is not the way it's always going to be. And that is where the illusion is, and that is where most people get stuck. They get stuck in the moment. That's why suicide is at an all-time rate. all-time high because people don't see the future of what's possible because they're stuck in the moment. And the moment is always a temporary illusion. So when we look at this, we ask ourselves, well, how do great organizations, how do they thrive? And now it's all about evidence-based, so I substantiate what I talk about through evidence-based. So here we are. It says that purpose is not just a critical differentiator. It is the strategic structure that pulls companies through the worst of times. It says companies should determine their purpose, a definitive statement about the difference you are trying to make in the world, and then craft their leadership, management, operation, strategy, and tactics to further that purpose. Furthermore, a purpose-based approach simplifies many difficult decisions and makes an uncertain future easier to navigate. So aren't they saying that if we teach kids about purpose and about their future and what they can become, that even though they're going through traumatic experiences, is that can sustain them and give them resiliency? Absolutely, because the purpose is always greater than the problem. And then it goes on to say that when the ashes clear from this economic Armageddon, the only organizations left standing will be the ones that actually stand for something. Without a purpose that improves people's lives and contributes to a greater good, organizations will struggle. Wall Street Journal bestselling author Roy M. Spence, in his book, It's Not What You Sell, It's What You Stand For. Kids don't care what you sell. They don't care about your money. They don't care about your clothes, about your car. They care about what you stand for. And if you stand for them and you believe in them during their greatest and worst times, they can be successful. Lydia, I don't know how you're still standing, sweetie, because you shouldn't be here. But you're here and you're breathing because somebody did your hair. Somebody gave you a car. It was always the small stuff. Now, the car was pretty significant. You know what I mean? But it's all about the whole perception of things. And remember, we talked about the whole focus piece. So when we look at purpose versus process, so you know what? Highly successful organizations pride themselves on a what? Focused vision. Give us a clear vision of who that we may know where we stand and what we stand for. Peter Marshall, okay? And then the thing about it is, in life, there's two things I realized. The only two things will change in life is either something new comes into your life or something new comes out of you. So in order for us to be able to help children, we can't wait for society to change us. We must change ourselves. 1986, I'm standing in my room, depressed. My mother has passed away when I was 14. The year before, I got a girl pregnant. We had a baby. 6 weeks after the baby is born, the baby dies. Trauma, 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 trauma. I've already did 2 tours in jail. I'm 18 years old, and I'm standing there with the 9mm gun in my hand, and I said, it's over. I got to get out of here. And I'm standing here with this gun. And I've got this gun in my head. And I'm trying to pull the trigger, but every time I pull the trigger, I remember the voice of a 3rd-grade teacher in 1977 telling me that I am significant, telling me that one day it's possible that I can do anything that I want, telling me that I was part of a kingdom. And I'm fighting for a half an hour with this gun, trying to blow my brains out, but I can't because somebody told me that it was possible that I could live. And I remember I took my last deep breath. I'm putting the gun to my head. I said, Miss Ritchie, I'm sorry. And I started to pull the trigger, then my telephone rings. And it keeps on ringing and ringing and ringing. It gets louder and louder. And I pick it up, and it's my good friend named Reggie Hines. And Reggie and I, we had grown up together on the streets, inner city Dayton, and we had horrific backgrounds. We were molested. We were both raped at 11. Well, I'm sorry. No, that's another friend. He wasn't raped at 11. I was raped at 11. But he had been through just a lot of negative things with his father and his mother, single mother. But somehow Reggie turns his life around. And I said, Reggie, I says, dude, you're going out to the military. I got nothing. He says, dude, Gary, what are you talking about? I said, man, I got this gun, and I'm going to end it. It's over. He says, what are you talking about? I said, it's over. He says, Mark, don't do anything. I'm coming over. So about 5 minutes later, Reggie pulls up to my house. He walks up my steps, and he did something that totally changed my whole life. Now, I'm thinking that my best friend is coming to save me. He's going to be like, Mark, put the gun down. Please, put it down. No, he didn't do that. You know what he did? My friend comes in. He looks around the room, sees the bag of weed, the 40-ounce, the cigarettes, the pills, the Jack Daniels, and me with a 9mm gun in my hand, and I'm sweating and crying profusely. My friend looks at me, and he says, you are a punk. You are a coward. everybody who's tried to come against you, you've got to this point, and this is the way you want to check out after everything that we've been through? He says, you know what, Mark, if this is what you want to do, so be it. He said, but remember this. In a week, they won't even remember your name, man. And in a year, it will be like you were never even born. And everything that you've been through, all the people who try to hurt you, who told you will never be anything, they win and you lose. And I'm going to walk down these steps, and I'll probably hear a gunshot before I get down because you are running from your problems. But after they bury you, you will never be remembered again. It will be like you were never even born. My friend turns around. He walks down my steps, gets in his car, and he takes off. I'm standing there with a 9mm gun in my hand with a very critical decision to make. Do I live or do I die? But I cannot do both. And then all of a sudden, this poem came to me by Robert Frost that says, somewhere ages hence, two roads diverge in a wood. And I have chosen the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And then all of a sudden, I became very conscious of my heartbeat. And I was breathing, inhaling and exhaling, and I was breathing real heavy, and all of a sudden, something says, breathe. Just breathe. Just focus on your breathing. And then all of a sudden, I had this vision of a baby being born, and the doctor smacks the baby on the backside, and the baby takes this deep breath, and then all of a sudden, I see a picture of an old person in a bed, and they take their last breath, and then all of a sudden, I had this epiphany that all that matters is what happens between our first breath and our last breath, and if I could just focus on breathing, if I could just focus on living, if I could just focus on existing, that everything else could work itself out. And once I made the decision to do that, I can't tell you my life was great, but all of a sudden, my life changed. I got out of the game. I stopped doing drugs. I stopped living a negative life. And then I got involved in environmental education, and I started working for this environmental organization for young people, and I went out west of California. You probably saw me on the top of a mountain. I was Mount Whitney. It was 14,367 feet. I climbed every bit of it. I lived in the mountains of Inyo Yosemite for 6 months doing backcountry trail instruction under a youth group for the U.S. Forest Service. Came back to my camp, and all of a sudden, my camp manager says, Mark, you got something special. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? See, he knew what I needed. He knew that I needed presence. I needed him to be present. And I said, sir, I don't know. I just want to do something better with my life, but I got a 9th grade education. I don't really know. He says, what do you want to do? You want to go to college? I said, sir, I can't go to college. He shuts his door, he grabs me, and he slams me up against the door. And he puts his finger in my face, and he says, don't you ever tell me what you can't do. You beat everything that's beaten you. You're 22 years of age. You should be dead. I'm going to ask you one more time. What do you want to do? Do you want to go to school? I said, yes, sir. He says, well, I tell you what. If I do everything I can do, will you do everything you can do? I said, yes, sir. He says, well, if I send you to college and we find a scholarship to help you pay for it and you get financial aid, will you promise me that you'll graduate? I said, yes, sir. He says, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I love environmental education, sir. I want to work with the environment. So I went down to a small town in rural Appalachia in Ohio where people kind of talk a little bit like this and things are kind of different. And for those of you who don't understand what I'm talking about, where I went to school, people talk like this all the time. So you guys ever remember the Andy Griffith show with Mayberry? Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And I went down there during hunting season, and I'm on this bus. I had never seen a wild turkey in my life. First time I saw it, I thought it was a pterodactyl. And I'm dead serious. So I'm on this bus going down to this college, and I get off the bus, and I go into the store. The music's a little different than what I'm used to. It has a little twang to it. And the guy behind the counter, he says, well, how do? And I am frozen in time. I'm scared to death. And do you guys remember the movie The Sixth Sense with Bruce Willis, where he says, I see dead people? Well, at that moment, I was like, I don't see any black people. So there's no black people, just me. And I'm scared to death. I'm trying to get back on the bus. And the guy says, well, how do? And I'm thinking, how do you do what? What are you asking me to do? What do you want from me, sir? So this lady comes from around the corner, and they're in there cracking up. And he says, young man,